Good day everyone. So I wanted to react to IWinToLoseGaming's Kokomi video. So if you guys haven't seen the video, it's here, the brutal truth about Kokomi's rerun. Give it a like, slap the subscribe button on his channel, it's absolutely worth it. So I just want to sort of go through the video. Obviously I've watched the whole thing and I've made my own notes. I don't just react to videos as they come along, so you guys can definitely get the full experience. I just want to sort of mostly talk about this little summary page that he gives. But before we go into that, I just want to say this is a pretty cool video. I think if you don't know a lot about Kokomi and you're wondering why on earth this character is sort of gaining a bit of popularity and usage, this is a pretty good video to watch. I think it summarizes all the broad aspects of it, and I think he does like a really good job. So it's like a really cool video. Now let's just sort of go through this entire list that he gave. Obviously the first one, Genshin Impact's Jesus, so obviously yes. Kokomi does allow you to get some great footage, to be able to walk on water, and I think especially for those mobile players and like kids and people that just want to run around and that perhaps that don't travel the terrain as aggressively as more seasoned players, I think the ability to just simply quickly walk from point A to B across the water can be quite valuable. Obviously for combat purposes you can meme around. I love memeing around on the water and watching the enemies struggle to hit me, but it's quite cool. So customer satisfaction, I probably put in a little asterisk here because that is conditional on you having Kokomi and using her, but she doesn't really have that that large of a player base currently using her. So it's almost in a sense that the people that wanted Kokomi really wanted Kokomi, so you should probably take this with a bit of a pinch of salt. But these next two things I think are the most important. Being able to have a super reliable comfort character that's cheap and easy to build is something that will benefit you for 99% of the Genshin Impact journey. So meta in Genshin is like focused on Spiral Abyss. And I think that is sort of the wrong way to sort of think about pulling characters and recommending it for low AR players or people that are new to Genshin. Because when you're new to Genshin or you're like a lower AR, you've got an entire world of Teyvat to still like run through. And you getting one character that, which may not end up being that useful in the end game for you, is still worth it for like 99% of your journey. And this is what people don't talk about. Having this character that just can help the continuity of your exploration is like so useful. Because imagine this, you have to like your low health, oh I need to now like go and get some food, or I need to go to the nearest like statue of 7, oh I can't use my Bennett or Diona or Jean because I don't have my burst app. All these sorts of things. But with Kokomi, you just press E, you can just stand there, you know, run around, and boop, everyone's stopped off, and you can go on to the next fight. So that continuity of just walking through Genshin Impact, I think, is seriously underrated. And that's what makes Kokomi such a good character. Yes, she's a great Flame Tales of Dragon Slayer user. I don't use it, by the way. I'm mostly a Kokomi DPS runner. Probably one of the best tenacity users next to Zhongli as well, because you just have that constant ticking on her E, which just procs the buff. F2P friendly, yes, definitely. Can use Prototype and Akushin Ring, so they are definitely good options. And I think she also brings out the best in these two weapons. They're very good weapons. The only downside to these weapons are, well, is that they're craftable weapons, and you might be like me on my one account and never ever get any catalyst, but you just get like these little spear prototypes, which is kind of terrible. Yes, healer. So Kokomi does overheal, and I think this is something people don't really talk about. Kokomi, if you compared her healing per second, her effective healing per second, like while she's using her burst and the jellyfish is ticking off, you on a free-to-play level can very easily get to about 10k heals per second. Obviously on a C6R5 level that jumps up to all the way about 30k, and it's really potent how strong that is. And I think for me it's such a shame that Ocean Youth Clam is like capped, because if it wasn't capped, I think DPS Kokomi would give a lot of characters like a serious run for their money. If you look at the heals per second category, Kokomi outpaces everyone in the game. But that's not something a lot of people talk about. But yes, for corrosion and for just generally keeping and stabilizing the team, she's just like this. No one can keep up with her, at least currently as of 2.5. Some increased poise, yes, she does get like an ability to be more resistant to interruption, but what's more what I think is missing is the fact that if you use her and Xing Shu together, like this sort of stacks on top of each other. And this is the cool thing about what Kokomi does. When all of these little individual things of her stack with other abilities in the game, it gels, it meshes really, really well. And I think it's very underrated due to the fact that you don't need to dodge anymore. You've effectively got all the benefits of a shield when you stack it like with Xingshu or Beido's ult, and it's just fantastic. Yes, she is a great driver, especially in teams that you want that are like off field. So you want your Fischl, Xingshu, all of these characters that want to be off field. She's a great driver for those, especially if you've got Sucrose as well. I think Sucrose and Kokomi and Taser teams is just absolutely nice. Very tanky, obviously. That's just due to the fact that she scales off of HP. And I think tankiness is something people also ignore. It's not something that it's something that only really becomes quite apparent when the enemy starts hitting hard. Like with the Energy Amplify event, you had the enemy dealing like 22k true damage. Like very few characters can survive a one-shot hit like that. It's mostly, unless you're like Hu Tao or like you've got a Bennett that you've just stacked HP percentage on, it's very difficult for most characters to even survive a single hit, and Kokomi just survives it and then immediately like undoes a lot of the damage, and that's very powerful. Lots of role consolidation, obviously. On the channel, we've talked about that in detail, so I'm not going to go into that. And this is why I've got Ayaka and Shen here, because I knew when I got, because I had C6 Ayaka. When I saw Kokomi, it's just like, yeah, Kokomi and Ayaka, they're gonna gel, and they're gonna gel to give you like the best freeze team ever. It's just, and now with Shenna, it's just I agree. It's like it's very easily like one of the strongest teams. Jellyfish obviously quite strong. Applies Hydro, pretty cool. And then obviously because it applies Hydro, it triggers Tenacity, which is cool. Yes, your E ability's got a surprisingly low elemental skill cooldown, and the fact is that you can weave the elemental skill cooldown whilst you're busy with other characters as well. I think people don't really take that into account. It's not just like you pop it and okay, now I can't do anything. You do other things while this is happening, and by the time you're like done with your rotation, you can just trigger it again. Off field again, Ocean Clams, cheap DPS, very good, very fast animations. Yes, that's awesome. Damage is consistent, and I don't think it's something that people give credit, because having consistent damage solves a lot of Kokomi's, well, it solves a problem that's not apparent, and that problem is if you look at something like the perpetual mechanical array and you do too much damage to it, it's almost like there's like this space of dead air where you've just wasted your elemental burst, and this thing just doesn't want to transform. It can be really frustrating, and the cool thing about Kokomi is you can throttle your damage early, switch to Kokomi, get that extra bit of consistent damage, push it right up until the very edge, and then on the next phase you've got all your elemental burst ready. The ability to manipulate enemy health pools with consistent damage, I think, is low-key very underrated, but it's a very advanced topic. Yes, Kokomi's normals have a decent range. I think this is also very underrated in the game. I mean, if you just put down Bennett's ult, Xiangling's Pyronado, then suddenly you have like this Thunderbird and he just flies away. And it's like, oh, damn it, now I need to chase after it. But with Kokomi, you stand in one spot and you can attack this thing, whether it's flying above, behind you, whatever. I mean, there are even cases where Kokomi's fish themselves, they'll come forward out of like where Kokomi throws her attack, and they're like immediately like 180, like it's like this little missile that just hones onto the enemy. It's very, very underrated. Kokomi's constellations are not needed. In a certain sense, I think past C2, yes, they're not needed. Unless you are someone that's crazy like me and you want Kokomi main DPS, because her constellations really stack well with each other and like her role compression. So I mean, this is a bit debatable, but yes, she is free to play friendly in the sense that it's not like you need C2 Raiden to be really, really effective. You can just get away with probably like a C0 or C1 Kokomi. Yes, she's got not just with Sukokomon as a 4-star team, you've got her banner team comp that works really well. You can obviously replace Beta with Fischl. You've got other Taser teams that she can work well, other Freeze teams that she can work well with. So I think she's pretty good. She doesn't work well with Bennett, which is absolutely amazing. It's one of the few units whose full potential is not dependent on Bennett. and that is just an absolutely amazing thing. There's some of the cons here as well. Yes, she does feel low impact because of all the things that she does. She does a lot of individual things, a lot of indivisible things, and that sort of definitely gives the false impression that she's not doing much when in fact she is doing quite a lot. As you see here, Mona amplifies damage more, but I mean that's just a substitutability. That's just preference. Low damage, although it's not negligible. I think it's when you put her as a driver, her damage becomes quite solid. In particular, when your other DPS don't crit, it's really nice to just have a consistent base damage, and you can then build on top of that damage. So it's like, oh, I need to get 50k DPS per second, right? I've got Kokomi as the base layer on that, of that. In other words, let's say Kokomi does about, I don't know, 20k if you add up all the damage sources. So then that extra 30k you can then sort of balance and play around. It really makes it quite fun to draft teams and to sort of work out what the breakpoints on your artifacts are to get a proper team. Cannot crit, again, it's her ability to not crit. Is exactly what gives all these benefits. So I wouldn't put that as a con. I think the flawless strategy is indeed quite flawless. There are higher DPS drivers, but I mean, I think this is a bit of a moot point, because if you want DPS, play a DPS. It's like, you know, it's like, can Raiden Child heal? No. It's like, can they tank effectively? Not really, unless they're standing in a Bennett ult and they're being healed up consistently. That it's not inherent in their qualities. And not great power for Primo spent. Again, I think damage is such a... I think because of the variety of ways in which we can deal damage with reactions, we can distribute our damage. I don't think that this is just such a strong argument, because of the fact that there's lots of diversity in terms of gameplay mechanics. So for instance, you look at the Abyss Lectors, for instance, that you like having high damage is not necessarily going to break them much faster. So how can I put it? There's also like a bit of a ceiling cap in terms of damage in the game. So you've got enemies that have got like invulnerability phases, enemies that have got like wind up times and all these sorts of things, like Senora, which is like capped at 20% max. So you can't like hit for more than like 20% of a max HP at any given moment. And it almost feels like what MiHoYo is doing in the game is they're trying to open up avenues for us to understand that damage is not just the only thing that matters. And I think this is what's so great about Kokomi. Again, being able to manipulate those enemy health pools is quite awesome. Her base team has 4 limited 5 stars. Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, in a year's time, people are going to pick up more and more 5 stars. So it might be a con on the short term, but in the long term, it's not really going to be. Constellations boost damage mostly. I disagree completely. Bakek Rogue at 5th Constellation boosts healing quite a lot. Her C2 boosts healing exclusively. Narit's Ascension boosts healing, the ability to tank your damage. C4 also boosts like her ability to heal and so on. It's only Constellations 1 and 6 that pretty much outright only affect damage. The rest of it pretty much stacks with like all her abilities. Her signature weapon is not bad for her. On other characters I get it, but at the end of the day you've got to ask yourself, you know, how many viable catalyst users are there that want to scale off HP? And if the answer is there are only 2, then out of that population, you know, both of them like the weapon, Barbara and Kokomi. It's not really that much of a bad weapon. I think the idea that weapons need to be universal kind of ignores the fact that characters are not universal. Characters fit into distinct categories of support, damage dealers, like drivers, etc. So I can't really agree with that argument. But I mean, that's just what I'm thinking. So let me just quickly look at my notes. If there's anything else that I've missed that I wanted to sort of say. Oh yeah, this is the last thing. Currently there are 2 philosophies to playing Kokomi, and I think it's like support versus like a driver, but there's a third option as well, and people don't talk about it, and that is the concept of winning via damage denial. Playing a character that denies enemy damage and hence gives you like a greater effective DPS output, and it practically ignores all the game mechanics. I think that is what Kokomi is for me. She is a character that if you can get frame perfect healing and you can really utilize her ability to shut down the game's mechanics, you can really get the best out of her. And I think this is something that will probably be relevant in Genshin Impact 5.0 or 4.0. The ability to win via damage denial is something that we're not really seeing in Genshin Impact, and that's mostly because of the fact that enemies don't really attack us. And even if we do get fun enemies like the little Vishaps, what do you call it? Like with the in Kokomi, you've got like on the like lower half, you've got those Vishaps that attack you and they drain your energy and they hit you like really hard. They were nerfed, and I was just like, why do you nerf those really, really cool characters? Because they're like the perfect counter to stuff like Bennett, where you just drain energy and you punish characters for relying on the elemental burst to heal. That's like really, really cool. And Kokomi is like one of those characters that can just outright shut those things down with her ability to just deny the damage via her E ability, which is just absolutely insane. But yeah, that's just my take, and that's just what I sort of think about this video. That's just some insights from me as well. Do give him, again, just want to say, give him a like and a sub, because IWinToLoseGaming is someone that is actually competent. He's programmed the Genshin math equations. He plays the game at the highest level, sets multiple world records. So obviously this person knows, he plays the game, and that's all that I want from people that theorycraft or that sort of give their opinions on characters, is to actually play the game at all levels, from free to play all the way to C6 R5, to understand the game fully from all perspectives. That's what I like, and that's what I like about his channel in particular. But yeah guys, that's been my reaction. I know it's been quite long, but yeah, that's it. Cheers.